Do you want to study abroad or work in countries like Canada, Australia, UK or New Zealand? Then you need to give the IELTS exam. But what is this IELTS exam? What is its format? How can you prepare for this exam? And all the other questions that you might have regarding IELTS are going to be answered in this video. And I can assure you guys that by the end of this video, you are going to become an IELTS ninja. So without wasting any more time, let's begin. So first of all guys, let's talk about what is IELTS. So IELTS is International English Language Testing System, in which your English proficiency level is assessed on 4 different criteria: listening, reading, writing and speaking. And guys, there are 2 types of IELTS exams, IELTS Academic and IELTS General. So let's say that you want to study abroad in a country where English is the primary speaking language. Then you need to give the IELTS Academic exam. Whereas if you want to work abroad in an English speaking country, then you need to give the IELTS General Training exam. And guys, in some rare cases, there is an option between choosing IELTS Academic or IELTS General Training exam. So if that is the case with you, then I would highly recommend that you choose IELTS General Training, because it is much easier as compared to the IELTS Academic one. So guys, IELTS listening, reading and writing sections are completed in one sitting, whereas the IELTS speaking section can be held on the same day or a few days before or after the other tests. So both the IELTS Academic and General Training exams are pretty much the same in terms of their pattern and curriculum. The difference is in their reading and writing sections. So the reading and writing sections of IELTS General Training exam are related to everyday normal life situations. Whereas on the other hand, the reading and writing sections of IELTS Academic exam are more onto the analytical side. So you might get topics related to science, technology, research, robotics, etc. So I'm going to explain this with some examples in a few minutes, but for now, let's talk about IELTS listening section. So guys, IELTS listening section lasts for 40 minutes and it has 4 sections in which you will hear an everyday conversation. For example, 2 colleagues talking to each other, or 1 person speaking, or an educational situation in which a student is talking to a professor, or a lecture or a talk on a general topic. So now that you know the format, let's talk about a few things which you need to keep in mind before attempting this section. Number 1, synonyms are important. So let's say that you get a question in your exam asking, how does John travel to work? And your options are A, car, B, bike, C, on foot and D, bus. And your audio says, John walks to work. John walks to work. Now did you notice here that the words from the audio didn't exactly match the words in your options? But our answer is option C, on foot. Why? Because the audio said John walks to work. Walks and on foot are synonyms, which is why the answer of this question is option C, on foot. Now this is the reason why synonyms are so important. Number 2, look out for distractors. For example, let's assume your audio says it's Tuesday, 4th of July, 3:15 p.m. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's Tuesday, 4th of July, 3:50 p.m. I'm sorry for the bad accent imitation, but the point here is that sometimes the answer might come later, which is why it is very important for you to listen carefully and look out for distractors. Number 3, always read the instructions very carefully. Now it doesn't matter how many sample papers you have solved, how many mock tests you have taken, but you still need to read the instructions very carefully, because sometimes in the instructions it is mentioned to write no more than 3 words or 2 words or 1 word. And let's assume that you didn't read the instructions and you wrote your answers in 2 words or 3 words or even more than that, then all your answers would be considered incorrect and you will get a big 0. Number 4, practice all the 6 question types of IELTS listening section at least once. Now for those of you who don't know, there are total 6 question types in IELTS listening section, and it is very important that you practice all of these question types at least once. Now if you want to know what these 6 question types are, or if you want to practice them, then you can click on the I button above, or I've also provided a link in the description. So now guys, let's take a look at an example of IELTS listening section. So let's assume that you get a question in your exam asking, what is John's gaming level? And your options are A, beginner, B, average, C, good and D, expert. And your audio says, how do you rate your game? Beginner or expert? Or no, not expert standard. I'm just middling really, not good, not bad. So guys, the answer of this question is option B, average. Why? Because John said I'm just middling really. Middling is a synonym of the word average, which is why our answer of this question is option B, average. So coming to the section 2 of IELTS exam guys, which is the reading section. So the reading section lasts for 60 minutes and has 3 sections. And if you remember guys, we discussed earlier that the reading section of IELTS academic exam and IELTS general exam is different. So in IELTS academic exam, the text of your reading section will come from books, magazines and newspapers. And it can also include some images, illustrations and graphs. But don't worry guys, you don't need to be an expert to understand these. Whereas in IELTS general training exam, in section 1 your text will come from public notices, timetables, advertisements, etc. In section 2 your text will come from a workplace environment such as a job description, a contract, a training material, etc. And the last section guys, the section 3 will include text from books, magazines and newspapers. So here's an important tip guys to find the answers of all the questions in IELTS reading section. So you don't have to read the whole passage to find the answers of your questions. What you need to do is, you need to follow a 3-step method. Now what is this 3-step method? The first step of this method is to read the questions carefully. So as soon as you get the question paper in your hands, the first thing that you should do is to read your question carefully. You don't have to read the passage or the paragraph, you just have to read your question. And then the second step that you need to take is to identify keywords in that question. Now keywords are the main words on which that question is based. And then the third step that you need to take is to find those keywords in your passage or in your paragraph. Now let me show you an example and explain how you can do this in your exam. So guys, let's assume that the first 2 paragraphs of your passage and the first question of your exam looks like this. So I'm going to find the answer of this question using the 3-step method. So our first step was to read the question carefully. So I'm going to read the question now guys. Which game company was established in 1858? So our second step was to identify keyword in the question. So according to me guys, the keyword in this question can be 1858. But choosing the keyword depends totally on you. You can choose whatever keyword you want. But according to me, 1858 is fine. So moving on to our third step guys, our third step was to find that keyword in the passage or in the paragraph and then read that section carefully. So as you can see here guys, 1858 is written here, so I'm going to read this line. The McLaurin brothers, one of the most successful board game producers of the 19th century, started its business in 1858. So I'm sure guys you all got the answer of this question. The answer of this question is the McLaurin brothers. So this is how you use the 3-step method to find the answer of any question. So moving on to the section 3 of IELTS exam guys, which is the writing section. So the writing section lasts for 60 minutes and has 2 tasks. So the task 1 of IELTS academic exam will include some graphs, charts, diagrams, etc. And you will have to describe them in your own words. Whereas in task 1 of IELTS general training exam, you will have to write a letter in response to a normal life situation or a problem. And guys, the task 2 of both the IELTS academic exam and the IELTS general training exam is the same. So in both the exams, you will get a question prompt and you will have to write an essay on it. So now that you know the format of IELTS writing section, let's talk about a few things which you need to keep in mind before attempting this section. Number 1, keep track of time. So guys, the task 2 of this section is worth twice the marks as compared to the task 1. So ideally, you should give 40 minutes to task 2 and 20 minutes to task 1. Number 2, always write your essay in paragraphs. So guys, your essay should include an introduction paragraph, 2 body paragraphs and a conclusion paragraph. Now if you want to know the structures of all these 3 types of paragraphs, then you can click on the I button above, or I've also provided a link in the description. So now guys, let's take a look at an example of IELTS writing task 2. So in your exam guys, you may get a question prompt like this. International tourism has brought enormous benefit to many places. At the same time, there is concern about its impact on local inhabitants and the environment. Do the disadvantages of international tourism outweigh the advantages? Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. Write at least 250 words. So guys, you can organize the answer to this question prompt in 4 different paragraphs. Your first paragraph is obviously going to be your introduction paragraph. And in your second paragraph, you can write about the disadvantages of international tourism. And in your third paragraph, you can write about the advantages of international tourism. And in your last paragraph, in your conclusion paragraph, along with writing a summary, you also have to write your point of view, whether you are for it or against it. So finally guys, moving on to the last section of IELTS exam, which is the speaking section. So the speaking section lasts for 11 to 14 minutes and is conducted in the form of an interview with an examiner. And guys, it has 3 parts. So guys, in the part 1 of this section, you will be asked some basic introductory questions, such as what is your name, what are your hobbies, where do you live, do you work or study, etc. And guys, in the part 2 of this section, you will be handed a cue card, and on that cue card guys, there is going to be a topic on which you are supposed to speak for the next 1 to 2 minutes without stopping in English. And then guys, in the part 3 of this section, you will have a discussion with the examiner, in which the examiner will ask you questions related to the topic of part 2. So guys, here are some important points to keep in mind. Number 1, don't memorize your answers. Because guys, the examiners are trained to spot memorized answers and they will give you a big 0 for any memorized answer that you speak. Number 2, give a little bit more detail. For example guys, if the examiner is asking you what are your hobbies, then instead of just saying I like to listen to music or I like to play cricket or I like to play football, give a little bit more detail. Like, why do you like to play football? Whom do you play it with? What does it make you feel like? When was the first time you started playing football, etc. And guys, if you want to learn some important phrases to impress the examiner in IELTS speaking part 1, then click on the I button above, or I've also provided a link in the description. So now guys, let's take a look at an example of IELTS speaking task 2. So in your exam guys, you may get a cue card topic like this. Describe a well-known person you like or admire. You can talk about who is this person, why is he or she well known, why do you admire this person. So guys, before answering this question, you will get a 1-minute preparation time, and how you will use that 1-minute preparation time will affect your score in IELTS speaking section. So guys, if you want to learn what you should do in that 1-minute preparation time, then click on the I button above, or I've also provided a link in the description box. So guys, before I tell you how you should prepare for your IELTS exam, comment below which section of IELTS do you find the most difficult, because it will help me to identify which section of IELTS should I make my future videos on. So guys, here are a few things that you can do to improve your score months or weeks before your IELTS exam. Number 1, read as widely as possible, whether it be books, magazines, newspapers or blogs. Number 2, write as many essays as possible and then evaluate them yourself like an examiner and find out your strengths and work on your weaknesses. Number 3, watch English movies and shows. Now guys, this is the most important thing because it will help you to improve your listening skills as well as your speaking skills. So last but not the least guys, I do have a bonus tip for you guys. So guys, have you ever noticed that whenever you are stressed or nervous, your creativity or your productivity decreases and you feel like you could have performed better if you weren't nervous, anxious or stressed? So my bonus tip is guys that on the day of your exam in the morning, do whatever you do to feel relaxed. Now it can be listening to music, doing yoga, doing meditation, doing exercises. Just do whatever you do to feel relaxed. And most importantly guys, get a sound sleep. So that was it for today guys. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe the channel.